The Dutch are weird, from their fanatic love of bike riding, their continual battle with the sea, and whatever in God's name this is. But even these things pale in comparison to one act committed by the Dutch that reaches an ungodly level of weirdness and is quite frankly nightmarish. This act of course being the time when in August 1672 the Dutch cannibalised their Prime Minister Johan de Witt. But why did the Dutch cannibalise their Prime Minister, and why was Johan de Witt the main course? But first we must get to know the man himself. Johan de Witt was born in the Dutch city of
Dordrecht
on September 24th, 1625 into the esteemed de Witt family of the Dutch Republic. His father Jacob de Witt was a prominent regent hailing from the patrician class of
Dordrecht,
a city of significant influence within the dominant province of Holland during the 17th century. De Witt's mother was Anna van den Corput, the niece of Johannes Corportius, a distinguished Dutch military leader and cartographer. Johan had an older brother named Cornelis de Witt, and his uncle Andreas de Witt served as the Grand Pensionary of Holland from 1619 to 1621. Johan and his elder brother Cornelis enjoyed a privileged upbringing that included a strong educational foundation. Both siblings attended the Latin school in
Dordrecht,
where they learnt the principles of the Roman Republic. Subsequently, Johan de Witt pursued higher education at Leiden University, where he distinguished himself in the fields of mathematics and law. In 1645, he earned his doctorate from the University of Angers, and later practiced law in The Hague as an associate at the firm of
Frans van Schoten.
In 1655, Johan de Witt married Wendella Bicker, the daughter of Jean Bicker and
Armitage van Polsbroek,
who were influential figures within the powerful Amsterdam oligarchy. This union also connected de Witt to several prominent individuals, including
Frans Banning Kok,
renowned as the captain depicted in Rembrandt's iconic painting The Night Watch, who became his uncle-in-law. Additionally, he was now related to
Joachim Ergens van Westervik,
who held ownership of the private Erdegens estate in northern Norway between 1666 and 1675. But first, to understand Johan de Witt and why he was cannibalised, you have to understand the meanings of two words. The title of stadholder was used in the early Dutch Republic to designate the highest executive official of each province. Their roles encompassed various responsibilities, such as appointing lower administrators and upholding peace and order within their respective provinces. Notably, since several provinces could appoint the same stadholder, the individual holding this position in the influential province of Holland occasionally functioned as a de facto head of state for the entire Dutch Republic from the 16th to the 18th centuries. The Grand Pensionary held the utmost significance among Dutch officials during the era of the Dutch Republic. In theory, a Grand Pensionary served as a civil servant of the estates, primarily representing the dominant province, the County of Holland, among the 7 united provinces. However, in practice, the Grand Pensionary of Holland assumed the role of the political leader for the entire Dutch Republic, particularly in times when no stadholder occupied the central seat of power. In 1650, following the demise of stadholder William II, Prince of Orange, Johan de Witt assumed the role of leader for the
Dordrecht
delegation to the states of Holland and West Friesland. Subsequently, in December 1650, de Witt succeeded Nicolaas Reis as the pensionary of
Dordrecht.
In July 1653, de Witt was elected as the Grand Pensionary by the states of Holland. This appointment was made with the explicit consent of Amsterdam under the leadership of Cornelis de Graaf, who also happened to be de Witt's uncle through marriage. With Holland being the most influential province in the Republic, de Witt effectively became the political leader of the United Provinces as a whole, particularly during periods when no stadholder had been elected by the majority of the provinces. During the zenith of the Dutch Golden Age, which spanned from 1588 to 1672, in the first stadholderless period, political authority in Holland predominantly resided with two families who supported pro-state republican ideals. In Amsterdam, this influence was wielded by the de Graaf brothers, Cornelis and Andries, while in The Hague it rested with the de Witt brothers, Johan and Cornelis. These siblings were leaders of the Republican faction in Holland, and their political clout was further amplified by their close collaboration and family ties. Johan de Witt's power base was rooted in the affluent merchant and patrician class, a group to which he himself belonged. This class aligned closely with the States faction, emphasizing religious moderation within the Protestant faith and adopting a foreign policy that safeguarded commercial interests. In contrast, the Orange faction, composed primarily of the middle class, favoured a leader from the Dutch House of Orange. They saw such leadership as a counterbalance to the affluent upper classes in matters of both economics and religion. Although leaders emerging from the House of Orange were solemn strict Calvinists themselves, they often aligned with Calvinism, which enjoyed popularity among the middle classes in the United Provinces at the time. William II of Orange exemplified this tendency among House of Orange leaders to support Calvinism. William II assumed the position of stadholder in 1647 and continued to serve until his passing in November 1650. Just 8 days following his death, William II's wife gave birth to a male heir, who would later become known as William III of Orange. Many citizens of the United Provinces advocated for the election of infant William III as stadholder under a regency until he reached maturity. When Johan de Witt assumed the de facto leadership of the Dutch Republic in 1653, the nation was embroiled in a conflict with England during the First Anglo-Dutch War. The English navy, which held a significant advantage, blockaded Dutch ports, leading to a severe economic crisis. Thus, de Witt's top priority was securing a swift peace agreement with England. However, English Lord Protector Oliver Cromwell stipulated that the Princes of Orange should be permanently excluded from holding power in the Dutch Republic as a condition for peace. Cromwell's motivation behind this condition stemmed from the fact that the House of Orange supported its adversaries, the Stuart royal family. Johan de Witt recognised that the other 6 Dutch provinces would not agree to such a demand. However, this marked a significant shift in the collaborative relationship between de Witt and his influential uncle Cornelis de Graaf. Their cooperation had been instrumental in the success of de Witt's policies and the subsequent economic resurgence after the conclusion of the First Anglo-Dutch War. Together with de Graaf, de Witt brokered peace with England through the Treaty of Westminster in May 1654. In the period following the Treaty of Westminster, the Republic experienced growth in prosperity and influence under de Witt's leadership. Over the ensuing years, he championed the commercial interests of his nation. De Witt was instrumental in building a formidable navy and appointed one of his political allies, Lieutenant Admiral
Van Wassen naar Rotterdam.
as a supreme commander of the fleet. Following the death of Oliver Cromwell in 1658, England saw the restoration of the monarchy in 1660, with Charles II of the Stuart dynasty returning to the throne. This development further strained the relations between the two maritime and trading powers. In 1665, 5 years after Charles II's ascension, the Second Anglo-Dutch War erupted. Johan de Witt implemented reforms in the Dutch naval forces, constructing larger and more heavily armed warships inspired by the English model. After initially facing defeat at the Battle of Lowestoft, he assumed temporary command of the fleet himself. Continued hostilities in 1666, coupled with the Great Plague and the Great Fire of London, led to economic hardships in England. Eventually, the Dutch emerged victorious, and peace was established between the two nations in 1667 through the Peace of Breda. To counter English trade rivalry, the Dutch state's army faced significant neglect. This posed a perilous situation as French politics during this era was characterised by unbridled expansionism fueled by intense economic competition with the Dutch Republic. Johan de Witt sought to safeguard the Republic by adopting a pro-French policy. However, he was reluctant to support King Louis XIV's proposal to partition the Spanish-Dutch Republic. Instead, he favoured the idea of a Spanish-administered buffer zone on the Republic's southern border over sharing a border with the powerful French state. In 1672, a year that the Dutch recall as a disaster year, the Republic faced attacks from France and England as part of the Franco-Dutch War. During this tumultuous period, Johan de Witt fell victim to a knife-wielding assassin on June 21st, sustaining severe injuries. In response to mounting pressure, he resigned from his position as Grand Pensionary on August 4th. However, this concession did not suffice for his adversaries. His brother Cornelis, who was especially despised by the Orangists, found himself unjustly arrested on fabricated charges of treason. Despite enduring torture, Cornelis refused to admit guilt, but nonetheless was sentenced to exile. When Johan visited the jail, which was just a stone's throw from his own home, to assist Cornelis in embarking on his journey into exile, both siblings fell prey to members of the Hague civic militia. They were shot and subsequently abandoned to the mob. Their lifeless bodies, stripped and mutilated, were hung on nearby public gallows, while a frenzied Orangist mob indulged in a gruesome act of consuming their roasted livers and other various body parts. Johan de Witt had effectively governed the Republic for nearly 2 decades. However, his regime met its demise mere days after his death. Although no further fatalities occurred, the lynching of the de Witt brothers fueled mob violence. To restore public order, the Republic granted William the authority on August 27th to take any necessary actions to purge the city councils. The question of whether William played a role in the de Witt brothers' murder remains unanswered, much like his precise involvement in the subsequent massacre of Glencoe. Suspicion also lingers due to his decision to withdraw a federal cavalry detachment that might have prevented the lynching. He also notably refrained from prosecuting well-known instigators such as Johan van Bunchem, Cornelis Tromp, and Johan Kviet. This has been me, Jack, and please don't go cannibalizing your country's leader.